we followed the schedule to a T. Took her in for every well child visit. She had all of the shots that she was supposed to. And I completely trusted the doctors. I had never gave vaccinations a thought. I never researched them. I literally went in, oh, time for your shots today. Go in, get the shots. I leave with the paperwork that I just filed because I was saving everything. Never looked at anything. Thought, oh, they might be cranky, maybe a little bit of redness around the injection site. That's what those are your typical side effects. I never had any concerns. I just trusted that she would be fine. And when she was 18 months old, she had the chickenpox vaccine. And it was almost immediately after we started seeing some really strange behavior from her. I'd say that she was an early walker. She was walking at 9 months. She loved to chase the dog, build with blocks, just play puzzles, typical. And then once she had that vaccine, almost immediately, she started, every time she'd wake up from a nap or wake up in the morning, we'd lift her up out of the crib and her eyes were just darting back and forth. And we thought that was super strange. And then we would pick her up and we're feeding her and she was trembling, her arms were shaking. And then it just over a course of a couple of days, that's when she started running into things and falling down and tripping and bumping her head. And we thought that was strange. And so we called the doctor, told them to bring, she told us to bring her in, which we did. And that's when they thought she might have an ear infection with the unsteady gait, that might have been what was causing her to be off balance, which, my intuition said it's got to be something more because the eyes and the trembling, that's not a typical ear infection symptom. And so that's when I had found out about the other mother who had these same symptoms and her child had the chickenpox vaccine. And so I just went from there and brought it into the doctor. The final time we took her in was the morning that she couldn't walk at all. So we took her in and we saw her regular pediatrician at that point. I think that when her pediatrician pulled out the insert and looked at that and found that ataxia was a side effect, a listed known side effect of the chickenpox vaccine, I think he was surprised. I don't think he knew. When they did diagnose her, she was diagnosed with acute cerebellar ataxia, which is a neurological disorder that completely destroyed the myelin sheath on her nerves. So all of the coating on her nerve was completely destroyed. They said had she been older, it would be comparable to MS or Guillain-Barré. And they didn't know how long it would last. Nobody could really tell me how long that would last. And my daughter was almost 11 months of not walking, not being able to crawl, not being able to feed herself, not being able to play. And this went on from 1.5 to 2.5 years old. So we had to carry her. We couldn't leave her on the couch unattended because she would fall over or fall off the couch. And she was 2 years old. She should have been running and walking and playing, and she couldn't do any of it. So when I had my second child, who is completely unvaccinated, I took her in to see our doctor, which is the same doctor that was there by my side through the entire ordeal with Nevaeh. And I asked him, what are your thoughts? Here's how I feel. I'm not comfortable with any vaccinations for her. And he was completely supportive, said that I support you given. His words were, given that it's the same mom and the same dad, same genetics, I completely support if you want to delay vaccinations, not have them, wait till she's 2, wait till she's 5. I support your decision. And he did at that time. What's drilled home for most doctors and pediatricians is that vaccines are safe and effective, and they're not for everyone. So when we sought reimbursement for the long list of medical bills that we had, we were told that we could not sue the pharmaceutical companies or the manufacturers of the vaccines because they are not liable. So in my mind, I said, well, who is? Who is liable if the manufacturers of this vaccine, the people that made this vaccines or that go into our children, if they're not responsible for the outcome, then who is? And that's when we learned about the fund that was established by the government to reimburse families that have had children who have either had adverse reactions or worse, that's who reimburses them, is the government, not the manufacturers of the vaccines. We did win our case, and we were compensated by the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. So we were reimbursed, we were compensated, we've got all of the paperwork, all of the documents that prove that, which we did present to our doctor, and he still denied a medical exemption for her. I looked him right in the eye and I said, "You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. You were there with me, with us through the whole ordeal with Nevaeh." And I said, "What would you do?" And his suggestion was, well, we could try one at a time to see. To see what if it happens again? No, thank you. I think that the doctors are seeing huge amounts of pressure from the higher management, all of the conglomerates. I think that they are seeing pressure. And I think it's a case to where my doctor 4 years ago was completely supportive of me not vaccinating, prolonging, staggering. But now that this legislation is passed, not supportive, not able to help, not able to give me a medical exemption, even for my vaccine injured child. Do we not live in a society where we can make choices for our children? Is that something that the government's gonna tell us to do? You have to vaccinate your child? No. It's not gonna happen. We won a court case and were fully compensated by the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program for our vaccine injured daughter, and we still cannot get a medical exemption for her. If we can't, who can? Vote yes on one.